Welcome everybody for another Marketing Muse Inc. live. And we are so excited because we have Fania in here to talk about what is like really important and should be doing this earlier on if I knew in your life, especially for women who can live longer, right? Gotta go ahead and build our empire. We are queens. We are protecting our kingdom, building it, and we can create plenty of moves, if you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, Fania, I'll go ahead and give this spotlight onto you right now. Give us a little blurb about who you are, what you do, and how do you serve?
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me and inviting me. I'm very excited about sharing it, especially with women, because that's my passion, right? So, who am I? Um, I'm a multitude of things, right? So my background actually is in education. So it didn't matter what industry I was in over the span of my career. I always put a big emphasis on educating people, educating those around me, right? Um, but I also, when I was very young, I was bitten by the entrepreneurship bug. So I opened my very, very first business at the ripe age of 20, with a baby in my arms when I just graduated teachers college. Okay. Knew nothing about business, but I knew what I didn't want. I knew I didn't want a boss.
Mm.
And I knew I didn't want somebody controlling my time and controlling my income and telling me what to do and when to do it. I was very clear about that.
Mhm.
Everything else, I had no clue. But just, so I always refer to it as ignorance on fire. That was me because I just knew what I wanted, but I was so ignorant about everything else that I just went after it, right?
Yeah.
And I did. I managed to open a daycare center with 36 kids in it,
Wow.
with having no money, no parents who could help me financially or anything like that, right?
Mhm.
So that, you know, the failures that I went through by doing that taught me a lot. Those were valuable lessons, right?
Mhm.
But throughout the years, as I lived in different countries, moved to different countries, when I arrived in Canada, I, also started the business in a totally different industry, in the travel industry, and I built it from zero to $8 million.
Wow.
But with traditional businesses, what I learned over time is that the business owned me. I didn't own a business. The business literally owned me, even though I had 15 people working for me. But because the traditional business like that also took a lot of um, capital, right? I had a partner. And as it goes with partners, that was a second lesson. It took me twice to learn the actual lesson. I had, basically that ended not very well after many years. And as life had me, I went to work for somebody else. After 4 years, got downsized. Many of the listeners probably experienced that, the restructuring thing,
Mm.
right? And at that point, I took a good look at my finances and retirement because I was getting up there, in age. And I realized that if I get another job, I won't be able to retire the way I want to. And I'm not talking anything extravagant, right? To be able maybe to go on vacation once a year, to maybe go to the theater once in a couple of months, like
Mhm.
nothing extravagant,
Right.
right? So it was very clear for me that I needed, oh, there we go. My dog. Um, so at that point, I realized that I cannot go to have another job. I need another business. And as it happened, financial industry crossed my path. Not in a million years was I planning to be in it. And I really joined because I saw an opportunity to learn more about finances for myself, right? But as I was learning, I realized how much I didn't know, despite being kind of above the average when it came to financial knowledge, right? Because I did build businesses from zero
Right,
to 8,
right.
0 to 8 million, right? Um, and I realized how much I didn't know. Um, I also realized that the average advisor out there, which was my personal advisor, was a male, white male in his 60s at the time, who literally was condescending and talking down to me. And even though he had maybe the best interest at heart, but the way he was talking to me, I was like, I don't want to talk to, I don't want to do anything you're telling me, because his approach was, I know what you need. I'll combine, you sign the papers and give me a check. And that just didn't work with me, right? So when I started learning about finances, personal finances, I it hit me that how many women, especially women, are out there that don't know where to go for help, don't know where to go for advice, right? And are really falling behind because of that, not because they don't want to, because they just don't know where to turn, right? And having the educational background, I also realized that education is key, right? So that's when I decided that that's what my next business is going to be. I need to get licensed. I need to educate as many people, as many women, families as I can, so they can then make the right decisions for themselves in order to get ahead.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very powerful. I think your story, just kind of having even an entrepreneurial background, riding the roller coaster of what you will with with life and all that. I think you have you definitely have the background, and I think also it just when I was growing up and thinking about my parents seeing financial advisors, a lot of them too, when they came to when they came to our house, are exactly how you describe them. They are right. And I think it's just the masculine energy of, I know what I do, I know what's good for your, quote unquote, your money, you know what I mean, and not very the nurturing, which is more the feminine energy. And I think that that's what you bring to the table is really, really amazing. Would you give us three things that we need to do as women, as queens, as Vanessa said, three things that we need to do to get our foundation started on being financially secure?
So I think the first thing, the most important one, is never say, I'm not good with money. If whenever somebody says that to me, my reply to that is, who told you that? When did you decide that you're not good with money? Right? Who told you that? So make a decision that you will be in control and you will acquire the necessary knowledge in order to be able to make the right decisions. That's number one. You know the saying, knowledge is power? I say it a bit differently. I say applied knowledge is power, because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't apply it, nothing is going to change for you, right? So that's number one, right? Number two, and that maybe the feminist in me comes out. I always say, a husband or rich parents are not financial security. Okay? I might have stolen it from a mortgage broker who said a husband is not your mortgage or something like that. But same idea, right?
Right.
So for me, that came just by looking at the female figures in my family. Okay. So my grandmother, who was from a very wealthy family, didn't need to work a day in her life, but she was a trained pianist, right? And just by having those skills, she was able to sustain and feed the family during World War I, because she would go and play in concerts and for, rich aristocracy back in Russia. And that's how she was able to feed the family, right? So if she never learned and graduated, they would be starving, because at that point, her husband couldn't provide for the family, right? My mom regretted till the day she died that she listened to her husband, and she dropped out of dentistry school in the last semester before graduating.
Oh.
Because, again, she married a wealthy man, and he said, well, you'll never work anyway. Why do you need to go in the middle of the winter and this and that? Who needs that? Look at the lifestyle I'm giving you. Well, guess what? World War II happened, and he was killed, and she was left with a, tiny baby that was born during the war, and she was left all alone after the war to try to fend for them, right? How different her life would have looked if she was a dentist as opposed to having to do menial jobs at that point, right? So I watched that. Like, I never met my grandmother, but I watched my mom, right? And the same happened. I was born, my dad died when I was 9 years old. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Again, she had to go through the same over again, but I watched it, I observed it, right? So the one thing and the one message I took away from it, that no matter what, you always need to be knowledgeable, independent, have the skills, and know what to do in order to be able to support yourself and your family.
That is so
always, always.
That is so true, because I'm in that same shoes, because my husband would always say the same thing too, because he would say, again, you don't need to work in a day in your life, but it would be good to have like an extra money income coming through. But for me, my thinking is different. Being divorced once and was in a bad, like, relationship, narcissistic relationship, he said the same thing to me, but then come to a point that I have to go and go in separate ways. That'll be another story for another time. But I knew already that I need to go ahead and build and not rely. The only person that I can rely on is myself.
He agrees. He agrees with you.
Wow. Those are very, very powerful. I think, as we wrap up here, I think you had given us a lot already with your tips, and and how powerful your story is. I want to hear, for the women that are, that are listening, the queens that are listening, entrepreneurs, what is your final last word for us as we wrap up? Like, what is the one thing that we need to hear now that would make us get up and get this ball rolling for us?
So I find that when you know that you need to be doing something, or there is an issue you need to be dealing with, and you're not dealing with it, you all know what I'm talking about, right? Just because you just don't want to. It stresses us out to no end. But once we make and we take that step, all of a sudden it's like all that weight off of our shoulders. You can breathe, right? So the first step is, wherever you are at, start now. Take that first step. Don't be afraid. Obviously, find somebody that you feel comfortable, you don't feel judged when you're having a conversation, right? So start now, right? Number two, Be very clear where you want to go, right? Because we're all different. We have all of us have different dreams, different goals in life. So be very clear where you want to go, right? I cannot give you directions or help you to get where you want to go if you don't know where you want to go, right?
Right.
My job is to help you get there, not to tell you where to go,
Yep.
right? And make plans, but then make sure you take the action to implement them, because plans without deadlines, without action, they're just dreams. Okay, so that's a very important point. And number three, I know we like to do all kind of DIY projects, right? And it's fun and whatever. But the one area where, and I'm like that too, there are certain things, like I decided to paint my walls and do some, you can see it behind, right? Like special effects and stuff, right? But the one area where I would say don't attempt to do DIY is your personal finances and planning for the future. The reason is that money is very emotional. Finances are very emotional. When we are really emotional about something, do we usually make good decisions or bad decisions?
Bad decisions.
We know, not very good ones, probably, right? Because it comes from a point of emotion. You know the saying that you don't see the forest for the trees? That's exactly what's happening. So you do need somebody that looks in from the outside and is emotionally detached, more logical, and can walk you through those steps, those roller coasters of emotions. Sometimes you're on a high, sometimes you're on a low. It's normal. We know that's how it goes, right? And can take you through your different stages of life and walk with you, right? And that's extremely important. So having a trusted financial advisor is I think very important. A lot of especially middle income families and women think they can't afford one. But there are different models. For example, I don't charge for my time. I work with people, I work out the plan, I understand where they want to go, I take a holistic approach, right? I only get compensated once they decide to implement the plan, and they're not the ones paying me. It's the companies where we decide to implement those plans, whatever suits them best, those companies compensate me. So as a broker, I work with over 50 different companies. And that way I know that I'm able to always find a suitable solution, right? So it's important to be honest and open when you speak to your advisor, because again, if you hide stuff, we can't help you either, right? So number one, start now, take the first step.
Right. Cool. Wow, that's a lot of that's just, yeah. I think not just in financially or financial planning, but also just in life in general, even entrepreneurship. The only thing that makes a difference is if you take action, right?
Absolutely.
Even if you're trying to lose weight, trying to eat better, the only way it'll make a difference is you take action. Trying to make more money, the only way it'll make a difference is you take action, right?
And don't be afraid of failures.
Exactly. Well, yeah, definitely.
Because there can't be any successes without failures, right? And that's probably more applies to business, but even when it comes to financial planning, I mean, there has been a bloodbath in the markets. Some people are, we're losing money. Well, just stay the course, and there are tips that we can apply, and trust me, you will come out ahead. right?
Right.
So absolutely, there is the ups and
Downs, right,
the
right.
downs, right? So
Before we wrap up, Fania, I want to ask, how can we find you on social? Give us, like the easiest way to reach you. And if you have a Facebook group, please invite our listeners so they could learn more about, about how they can, how they can get help from you and all that good stuff.
right. So I do have a Facebook business page, and I did post it in the chat, so maybe you guys can share it.
I will.
I also have my Instagram.
Mhm.
It's I post stuff on Instagram, and then it goes to my business page.
Uh-huh.
I don't post as much on LinkedIn. It's kind of on my to-do list.
Mhm.
But I do also once a month educational webinars.
Oh,
They're
cool.
absolutely free, 30 to 45 minutes.
Cool.
Sometimes I have experts on there as a panel. Sometimes I just speak, or one of my colleagues, we speak to certain specific topics, right?
Cool.
So the best way, follow me on Instagram. I'll be posting there. Follow me on my Facebook page. I'll be posting any upcoming events there as well. You can always DM me, and we can have a quick chat, no obligation, and just see if I can be of help.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today, Tanya. Fania, we had a blast just learning. It was a lot of information, and I can't wait to actually go back and extract those tips and really kind of put them into action in my life too. Do you have any questions, any last words, V, before we wrap up?
For the audience or for you?
From me, not so much, but I'm so excited to go ahead and share all the details, and then we'll go ahead and create these notes also. So if you are like watching inside our group, inside our business page, or in other Facebook groups that we are a part of, especially if you're on LinkedIn and YouTube, please do not forget to like hit subscribe and turn on that notification every time that we go on live. So thank you so much, Fania.
There's motherhood for you.
Thank you,
so much, Fania.
Vanessa. Thank you, Sheena, for having me and giving me this opportunity. And I look forward to future interactions.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Fania, have a good one.